Welcome to a very interesting episode of Saffron Station. So in this episode, I have a very familiar face, which you can see.
Yeah.
We want to talk about some communicational skills which helped so many people, and especially those who are migrants. And hope it's beneficial for you all. So my initial thought for beginning this podcast was reading this book, that how can we talk to anyone. It's a very short book. It's like 350 pages, and it was published in 2003 by Leil Lowndes. And this is a book that focuses on applicable and practical skills. I found it very useful, and the other time Zohaib and I were chatting about the methods that are very useful, and surprisingly I noticed that he read the book as well. So instead of talking about overloading yourself with work and dopamine, we decided to talk about this and the techniques. Yes, Zohaib?
Hello, Amir. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? It's nice to see your beautiful face once again after some time, I guess. And I'm so excited to be on Saffroni once again.
Thank you. But this is Saffron Station, not Saffroni Podcast. The Saffroni Podcast is going to be only the Farsi focused ones.
Okay. Yeah.
But Saffron Station is going to be just the English focused episodes.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. And in previous episode in Saffron Station, we talked about the externalization and the power of externalization and how it is important in our lives and how it's effective and how it benefits us to begin with, and then others, the loved ones. Now we want to talk about approaching people and starting a conversation. Zohaib, had you ever found yourself in a situation that it's very difficult for you to get someone's attention or approach to someone that you like, or enter conversation in a, work office with a bunch of people?
Lots of situations in the past, and it's always extremely daunting, first of all, to think that you have to approach someone and chat with them, and you don't know that person, you don't know how things are going to go. So I guess one of the things that you need to let go of slightly is that sense of control and coping with uncertainty better as well.
I love it.
So I think that's one of the biggest and hardest things to do while approaching someone. But there are, I guess, in the book in itself, there were some really nice tips as well. And I think once you have started to have a chat with someone, then things start to flow. It's just that initial hurdle of actually approaching someone and speaking to someone. So yeah, what about you?
Isn't it the case? Always making the first step is the hardest thing.
Yes, the first step is
going for a run.
The hardest.
You are hell of a runner. Okay, you run a lot. You eat chicken a lot. I don't know what was related to it, but always, if you are down, if you don't have enough energy, it's really hard to make yourself to go out. And I really admire people like you who place a premium on running and have a great willpower. Once you go out, and after 5 minutes and 10 minutes, you're just enjoying and you're proud of yourself for what you've done. But as you said, the first step is very, very, very difficult. You asked about me. I found it very difficult as well, especially in the early years, I would say, of my arrival to New Zealand. There are two concepts, self-esteem and confidence. So if you don't have any of them to a level, to an extent that allows yourself to appreciate yourself first and then talk to strangers, then you're in a big trouble. And having said that, for people, I mean, I'm not that idealistic, but for those who are very idealistic, they're constantly worried about their own words,
Yeah.
their own reactions, or how people will think about me if I say this. What happens if I don't say that slang correctly?
Yeah.
We are always worried about the judgments, and that's very difficult to cope with. I started to not thinking about how I will be perceived in others' eyes. I started
Right.
to think about how important their words are to me. And I just wanted to
Right.
show that you matter. I am willing to listen to you. I love to listen to you. And I always wanted to search for something in their words or in their sentence to find it amusing enough
Yes.
to just talk more about it.
Yeah. How did that change happen for you to move from, because that's essentially a
Yeah.
difference of mindset.
Yeah. So interestingly, when I was reading this book, it was talking about you will make an impression when you go to a public room in the first 10 seconds. So in the first 10 seconds, you can make a good impression or the bad impression. And honestly, all of us judge each other. I mean, whoever says that do not judge, they're just living in a utopia. You will have an interpretation or you will have an impression of someone who enters the room, don't you? You might have good feeling about them. You might like, okay, let's adopt a wait and see attitude to see how it goes on. But some people make a very impactful first impression. And interestingly, Leil Lowndes says in her book, that there's one technique that really helps you to have a very strong first 10-second impression, and that's the flooding smile. Have you noticed that here in New Zealand, most people are just smiling when they see you?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, even if you're walking on the street, people are smiling, especially in Dunedin. That's a trait that I have noticed more so in smaller cities than in bigger cities, because it seems like in bigger cities, people are always rushing to different places. Whereas in a place like Dunedin, everyone is smiley, they're chatty. Whenever I go for a run or I'm out, I greet people and then they would greet back, or they would greet me and I would greet them back.
You lived in England for a couple of years. Was it the same?
Yes. The trend was the same, that in smaller cities such as Sheffield,
Uh-huh.
you would see people would actually smile at you. They would actually stop probably and also try and show you the directions if you're lost. But in London, the situation was completely different. I remember
Yeah.
asking someone for directions or something about taking the tube, and they were like, "Oh, I don't have time. I gotta go to get to some place."
Even about such a small thing that might take 2 seconds or 3 seconds of answer. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's interesting. But here, as you mentioned, when you see that smile from a stranger, I mean, you're not going even to start a communication or a chat with them, but just you feel good of living in such a
Yes.
society. Um, so this flooding smile is talking about not just the smile that we see in the street, because you are not going to start a conversation with those people. Imagine that you're in a workplace and I mean, you're scanning people and you see someone. It says, Leil says, the author, that you shouldn't instantly. No, no. Ooh, or even with the eyes. Or it says, don't just smile or laugh in the beginning. Look at them
Yeah.
and then gradually go for a warm, big smile.
Yeah, yeah. How about this, Hamira? How about this? Like this. Check this out. That's kind of gradual.
Yeah, that's like the first impression of 10 seconds that this is an alarming sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when the recipient sees that smile, Lil says they feel the warmth. They feel like they are being in the center of your attention.
Yes.
And then the text says, apply the sticky eyes. So the sticky eyes is like maintaining a constant and strong eye contact with the person. Like you shouldn't really look away or
Yeah.
such a thing like or you know it's like or gazing, you know. It's like
Yeah.
it says your eyes should really stick to that person and you should make them feel that you're looking into their souls. It might sound crazy, but it is applicable.
I mean, they say that eyes are the window into the souls.
That's very true. And interestingly, this non-verbal communication makes the first 10-second very vital and impactful. So you do that and others think that, okay, this person is safe to either talk to, or if they approach to me, I can be safely talking to them.
Yeah.
My question to you is, you know, we are so attached to our phones.
We are so attached.
Okay. How about you find someone interesting and they have their phones and they're just fidgeting, you know? Oh yeah, you were saying. Yeah, sure. Sorry,
Wow.
what?
That other person doesn't seem present at all.
Yeah.
Not much conversation can happen over there. I really don't. I'd really dislike it, actually.
Yeah, and imagine this.
Yeah.
So Lil says in this book that constantly, you know, touching your nose or your face or keep your heads away or look at surroundings is just cause people in the surrounding to be less willing to start a conversation to you.
Yes.
Or touching your ear and stuff like that. Like you can minimize your fidgets. And that's a very good way in order to grab the attention.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that fidgety conversation, because I think I sometimes had this way of communicating where I would move a little bit or just like not be still. But certainly, if you're more still, you have a better posture. And as you said, maintaining an eye contact, that's always much helpful. It just shows the other person that you are actually respecting their time and you are actually trying to make an effort to be present with them.
Yeah.
I think that's possibly one of the biggest gifts one can give another person, right? Is to be present with them. They might not be saying much as well. I mean, sometimes there is silence, and awkward silence is absolutely fine, which I think is something that's really frowned upon. But it's actually not that bad. But being present is the main thing, because of course communication is not just verbal, it's non-verbal as well. So being
Absolutely.
present, being there in the moment, and not being fidgety, being still and trying to pay attention, I think is the best way to communicate.
Can't agree more. Now let's imagine. Oh, as you said about the posture, I remembered one more thing. So the text talks about a baby pivot. And have you noticed that the babies are always, you know, facing towards you when they want to start a conversation? They always look at you. Their their body posture is just completely towards you. It's
They're very present.
very true. So this kind of posture shows that well, I'm not a baby, but I'm a big baby.
Big baby.
Yeah, and I'm pivoting completely towards you, and I'm
Yes.
sending this signal that I have an undivided interest in talking to you. So
Yeah.
it says if you're doing that like this, or if you look from up, from upper angle,
Yeah.
or like that, these are different signs.
Yes.
Interestingly, talking about the posture, Leil in her book says that if you start talking to people with crossed arms,
Yeah.
what kind of message do you think we send?
I think we are just sending a message that we are closed off and we are not that open to communication. Whereas when you're using your arms and when you're trying to chat, you're showing that you're embracing them.
Very true. And also, we send the signal that we are hiding something.
Yeah,
How about hands in the pockets?
not a good idea either. I
Why?
don't think so.
Why?
Signals a lack of interest once again.
Yeah, as if like, you know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever sign.
You're just another person. I
Very
don't really
true.
care.
How about
Yeah.
hands at the back?
Hands at the back is an interesting one. I think that possibly shows some respect sometimes, actually, as well. I don't know. It can be a very cultural thing.
It is.
Different parts of the world can have very different views on that.
Does it have a particular meaning in your culture?
Well, for me, I don't think it's mostly the hands behind the back, but I
Okay.
sometimes keep my hand on my chest like this when I'm
Oh,
hand on my chest like this when I'm speaking to someone to indicate
okay.
that I'm grateful to be speaking to them.
Interesting. So
What about you?
hands in the back in my culture shows a sense of mastery. Like I am your master.
Mm.
I'm waiting for your words. I'm even criticizing the way that you look at me. As if like I'm your
Right.
teacher, because that's the posture of most of the teachers, in the classroom when we were kids, and they were just,
Oh, they're walking like this with the
exactly.
arm. Ah,
And we,
yes.
and we were always afraid that, oh shit, if they notice something from us, we're in trouble. So that comes from well said, from the culture, that even if you put your hands at the back, in addition to this message, it might send the signal that I am hiding something from you. I don't know what is you're
Yeah.
holding behind your back. So my subconscious goes to, have you started to hide something from the beginning of a conversation to me, from
Yeah.
me? Interestingly, it says that if you start showing your palms, it's a sign of peace. And it's very interesting. Or if you are next to a staircase and you just lean on it, like, but you are
Yeah.
like baby pivoting, towards it. This shows that you're not constantly worried, what should I do with my hands. Some people
Yeah.
have this.
Yeah. As if getting into a boxing fight.
True, dude. What the hell,
Yeah.
man? Should I stay in this conversation or should I run away?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, so good. So,
That's interesting, Amr, that you're mentioning
Mhm.
about resting your arm because that can indicate comfort as well.
Exactly. And you know how we do this with our friends, that we put our arms around their necks or around
Yeah.
their shoulders. So that sends this indirect message that I'm a friendly person. Like I want to be
Yeah.
friends. I'm not here to judge you or, do something. I'm safe enough, at least for the beginning.
Right. Do you think so? Because don't you think that in the first few meetings, if you, for instance, first meeting, you put a hand around someone
No,
or on their
definitely not.
back?
It's just a posture that
Okay.
my eyes is familiar with that kind of posture. So I'm like,
Right.
yeah, But no, definitely not in the first instance. Like,
Meeting.
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you are not going to do that unless you don't want to start a conversation with someone. Just do it, and you're good.
You're good. Yeah. Conversation ended.
Very true.
Yeah.
How about a situation that you okay? Let's say that you don't have confidence enough, and your self-esteem is not that enough. Okay, you don't appreciate yourself. You think that okay, I might not be good enough to enter this conversation, and you want others to approach you
Interesting.
in a workplace gathering. What do you do?
I actually have never thought about that, frankly, about
Yeah.
how someone would approach me.
Hmm.
I think if I want to approach someone, I generally just approach them and just speak to them. But I haven't really had that kind of an interaction. Maybe you
Yeah.
would just like subtly look at them, give them an indication that you might be interested, you might smile at them, and then get on with your business.
What
And
happens
then
if they don't approach? Okay, you do the sticky eyes, you smile, do the flooding smile, but they're not coming to you, and you're afraid of approaching.
then I think I just have to work on my mindset, right? Behind closed doors, possibly. Just
Okay.
journal, understand why was I so afraid to approach that person, despite that person being in the same gathering as me.
Yeah.
And so we certainly had a common ground to actually speak on.
Yes. Yeah. But this is just before starting conversation.
Right.
Like how do you make people
Turn
to
my
be?
body towards them.
Yes. Yes. But it's not good enough to approach, or for them to approach them. How about a rubber neck wheel?
How about a rubber neck wheel?
So
Rubber neck.
yeah, that's the term that Lil uses in her book. She's like, take a special uncommon prop with you into such an event. It can be a unique pin. It can be an interesting book. It can be an interesting hat, a vintage watch.
Yeah.
It gives people a hook to pay attention to you and possibly to start a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, some people are, defined as charismatic people, and you don't know what is it with them. You just think that they are born with charisma, but it's not the
Yeah.
case. It's just these small notes that we never pay attention.
Learn skills.
So imagine that in your next gathering that you're invited to somewhere that you don't know anyone, you don't have any friends or any colleagues, you wear a red shirt, a complete red shirt. Instantly people will look at you,
Yeah.
and then when you do the flooding smile and sticky eyes, there's a high chance of people come to you and ask you about your shirt or an interesting
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah, yeah. In your case, it could be a Metallica shirt, and that way you can possibly find the right kind of person to chat with as well, right? Because then you have a
Probably.
common interest.
Yeah, very true, very true. And, you never know what are people's hobbies, before you start a conversation with them. I mean, the last thing that someone might predict about me is just listening to Enter the Sandman and Headbang. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like this guy, nah, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting technique that she introduced in this book, and I really liked it.
Yeah. It just basically reminded me of, I guess, my first encounter with you, which was way back in 2018, February. And you were actually having a breakfast and you had a long black coat on, which I thought
Oh
was
yes, yeah, I
super
remember that.
interesting. Do you still have that coat?
Unfortunately not, but I do remember. I loved that a lot, man. I brought it from Iran.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
So
see, there
clothes
you go.
and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
clothes and props certainly.
Because, interesting, because here I couldn't find something similar and it wasn't like it was unlike anything that I'd seen here before. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it worked for you, but I mean, not for the girls. So maybe for,
I need to be looking at different things.
yeah, very true, very true. Um, the next thing that she talked about in this book is just about the concept of taking the other people under a spotlight.
Okay.
What do you think of that? Imagine that you have already started a conversation with them.
I think what for me that means is because I read this book a long time back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So I don't really remember the specifics, but what I'm guessing that means is that people like to talk about things that they're interested in. So possibly giving them open ended questions to speak about themselves and their experiences and hence giving them the spotlight. Is that what she means?
exactly. So we like to be paid attention. I mean, we like to be admired. We like that others appreciate our achievement, don't we?
Yeah.
So it feels good when I'm talking about my achievement. You say, wow, hell of an achievement. Or show
Yeah.
interest about my achievement. Rather than you said, oh, actually, I have this achievement. And yeah, I think I made a lot of effort about it. And you you suddenly changed the conversation that was about me into you. So
Yes.
you made you somehow made my achievement lesser than you because
Yes.
in my mind I think that, oh, okay, so you were just waiting for me to finish, then you
Yes.
can talk about your story.
Yeah.
However,
Totally.
Leil Lowndes in this book says that if you put a spotlight on the other person, achievements and stories, then they appreciate you that you do this, then they will be more willing to listen to you and also
Yes.
in return appreciate your achievements.
Absolutely. I think, when you give the people the spotlight to speak about who they are and what they value, then that starts to create trust as well, which you can build upon slowly. And then, of course, when they're speaking, then it's kind of weird that, I'm not speaking. So I would also have to speak. And that basically helps bring about like a common bond and the relationship progresses. It's a process of consistency as well,
Yeah.
and it keeps building up over time and blooms into a beautiful kind of friendship. For instance, I often think that a lot of people I did not have as much connection with to begin with. But then slowly and gradually, we work, we talk, we are there for each other, and consistently we keep speaking about things. And over time, the bond becomes so much better. But I think for that aspect, you need to have a certain sense of curiosity as
Mm.
well to be able to learn about different cultures. For instance, I really cherish our time in the residential college, Abbey College, when we lived there, where we had possibly like 50, 60 nationalities. People were speaking about each other. And as you said, that this is not really a skill that people are born with, it's a skill that you acquire as you go with exposure. And so when you have so many different people, then you start to practice that skill. And slowly with time, you just get better. So, me as a Pakistani guy, made friends with you and Americans and Europeans and Africans. And it was beautiful to learn about.
Interesting that you said that. Was it a time that you felt that your nationality might impact the conversation before you start?
Initially, I think I came from a place of not knowing what the other people want to talk about. So there was this huge dilemma about what I should be asking them because I wasn't sure what the cultural boundaries are. But then I realized that with interactions, I learned that people are people. People like to talk about themselves. People have
True.
their own achievements. People have their own experiences, which they are more than happy to share. So, open ended questions are never a bad idea. What do you think about that?
I love it. Actually, that's another technique that Lil talks about it in the book that says never ask, what do you do? What's your job? How much do you earn?
Yes.
How's the weather? Are you a weatherman or something? What the hell? Like these direct questions requires first they are personal and second they are required very short answers. Like I ask you how much do you earn because I need a number or
Yes.
how do you do because you're going to say yeah I'm good. That's it.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of that ask open questions that starts a conversation. Instead
Yes.
of how do you do or what's your job, say, what is the most interesting thing that you allocate most of your time to?
Yes.
So even the person, even if they don't like their job, their occupation, they can freely and safely talk about what they like. Isn't it the
Yes.
case?
I think so. I remember that when I was in Abbey College, one thing I used to do was that I approached people and used to have dinner together. So I asked them, what is the one thing that you're really grateful for today? And that also would have like a nice answer. So then they would ask me the same question as well. So it's quite simple just to ask those kind of questions. And then when you become better friends with them, I think it's always good to have those kind of questions that kind of challenge them, but also helps them to speak about themselves. For instance, what are the what are your values? What do you cherish the most, as you said as well? What's the most interesting thing that you have done, or questions like that?
Or being a scavenger.
Yeah.
So look at the surroundings and start talking about the things are that are really interesting to you. For example,
Yes.
at a workspace, when you want to initiate a conversation, don't just say, "Did you make this coffee?" Of course,
Yeah.
she made that coffee. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What a dumb question is that? You just ask,
Yeah.
"What's your favorite coffee?" And or this coffee smells really good. Is it a homemade
Yeah.
one or did you just make it here? So these questions shows that first you are interested in what they're doing, and second
Yes.
you took something from the environment and you start talking about that
Yes.
environment. So
Yeah.
the person ain't feel you are asking a personal question or that's none of your
Exactly.
business. I mean, yeah. At a gallery, for example, I mean, you
Yeah.
look at the paintings and you see someone that, ooh la la, instead of just approaching directly and talking, oh, uh, can I introduce myself to you? I'm Amir. I have a PhD. Please, can you be my girlfriend? Instead,
Girlfriend. Yeah. I'm so
In-
educated.
yeah, very true. I can feed you because I have studied food science. What the hell? Uh,
I actually love that, man.
yeah.
That's good. I think so. Food science, yeah, and you can bake as well. You can bake good cinnamon rolls. So that's a good incentive for people to want to become your
Yeah,
friend.
but that might
That's
not
why
be.
maybe I became your friend.
See, that's what I'm saying. So maybe this is an indication that I shouldn't use this because you liked it, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't work in any years. But yeah,
Yeah.
but instead of that, I'm like, what do you see in this painting, for example?
Yeah.
Or is this your favorite genre? Like a complete different questions that makes the other person think about the environment. And actually, I mean, they were interested to come to this gallery.
Yeah.
So a question about their interest makes them to feel more safe.
Yeah, you have been here in New Zealand for such a long time. I think one of the other things that we need to talk about is the mother tongue aspect.
Hmm.
Because, of course, you are a fluent Persian speaker, and I speak Urdu as my mother tongue. So, how much of a challenge did you think was there because of that? And did that prevent you from approaching other people?
Honestly, thank you for the question. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it was tenacious because in Iran the official language is Persian/Farsi.
Yes.
Even in universities, everything is translated. The textbooks, the references. I wrote my thesis on Farsi, and for me, self-training myself to English,
Yeah.
it was really hard. But watching movies, listening to music, and reading books,
Yeah.
and rehearse. But in an English speaking environment, it's a complete different story, different accents, with different interpretations, with that 10-second rule of perception. It was a huge pressure.
Yeah.
So initially, I was always saying that sentence that please excuse me if I'm saying something that is weird or awkward because English is not my first language. So apologies in
Yeah.
advance. But later on, I found that strategy not really helpful because it sends that signal that I'm not confident in what I'm doing, and I send my apologies to it. But later on, I thought that, but why? I just have to accept it that I'm not good enough, and that's it. There's no need
Right.
to apology or apologize from someone because I'm not good enough, especially in the
Right.
language. What do you think?
I think initially I struggled a lot,
Hmm.
despite the fact that a lot of people told me that my English was really good. And frankly speaking, I actually had studied in an English school, not a British
Hmm.
school, but in a Sri Lankan school, Muscat, where everyone was speaking in English. So when I went to England, I think the one thing that I really struggled with, of course, was the cultural aspect of things. But the other aspect was understanding the accent,
Hmm.
which to me was extremely challenging. I also found that the things that that British people laughed at were very different from the things that I would laugh at. So there were all these challenges that were there, and I think initially it was extremely daunting. And if I was going to be that 18-year-old boy again, and if I could advise that 18-year-old boy that was me, I would say, don't worry, just keep going out there, just keep interacting. It's a skill that you're going to acquire, and the more you put yourself out there, the better you are going to be able to communicate with people. So initially it's going to be hard all the time. I frankly think that even, this podcast that we do, I love being on the Saffroni podcast because I get to explore my thoughts and feelings in English with you. And I think it's really improved my communication skills. Similarly, I would go to the radio show, or FM 105.4. We have our own show and speak over there. So I think people need to put themselves in positions where they have to speak to people from different cultures.
I can't agree more. And kudos to you and to me. I mean, according to Snoop Dogg, I want to thank me for for taking the effort. No, honestly, I mean, we did a great job in accommodating ourselves into a new country and adopting to a new culture and start talking about it. And we know that we are not perfect, but we are not ashamed of it. We are not
Yes.
embarrassed of it. We
Yeah.
just accepted it and carried on.
I also had another question for you. And I just wanted to ask you, what do you feel about For instance, you said you were watching these American movies and you were learning about the Western culture. Did you come in with biases approaching people thinking that, okay, this person looks like this, so is going to behave like this?
It's a lie if I say no. I would have loved to say no,
Yes.
but yeah. And I knew about it, but I never experienced it. And when I experienced it, it was like it hit me harder than just knowing about it. But I just, pivoted myself out of it.
Absolutely. I absolutely think that this is the one problem that I had as well. I was trying to gauge what this person is like,
Mm.
and as a consequence, I wouldn't really respect their individuality as much as I should have. I was basically just judging the book by its cover there without wanting to learn something. And there's a saying, assumptions are the mother of fuck ups. And that, I think, is the worst thing one person can do to another person, because in reality, they are then objectifying that person. So it's something that I'm not a big fan of anymore. And the more I think about it, I actually took a course as well recently, understanding about discrimination.
Oh,
And this is
lovely.
exactly the thing that they are talking about. I think those kind of courses possibly have to be introduced to kids at an earlier age as well.
Honestly, 100% agree. Discrimination, my goodness. Assumptions, yes. It's one of the agreements. It's one of the four agreements. And I
Yes.
and I repeat it to myself every day, because every time in a situation that is just very makes me worried that maybe I said something wrong, or maybe that person is thinking like this, or maybe that person thinks less of me. I go back to those four agreements, especially never make any assumptions. It just devours you with
Yeah.
overthinking and rumination over and over and over again. So we talked about the high energy people, but how about the introverts? How about the low energy introverts? How they can initiate a conversation? Or even
So
if they initiate a conversation, they don't have anything in their minds to say.
I think I'm an introvert. A lot of people won't agree with that,
Come on.
but I really am an introvert. I love my personal space. I don't want to go out of my way to speak to people. But I think through awareness and through understanding the importance of social interactions,
Mm.
I think I've been able to change that. There's a really interesting concept. One is that you have two selves. One is the observing self, and the other is the thinking self. And the thinking self is kind of self destructive because it's coming up with these thoughts. This other person doesn't want to talk to me. This other person thinks that I am brown and so probably not as good as them. All of these kind of self ruminations which have no grounding in truth. The observing self, on the other hand, is something that you can observe this and understand, where is this coming from? How aligned is it with reality? And in truth, it is not aligned with reality at all. It's our own learnings and traumas that we have experienced in our early childhood
Well said.
via watching movies where blonde people are considered the epitomes of beauty, whereas brown people possibly not as much.
True.
So
True.
that's there.
No, well said. In this book, Leil Lowndes introduces a technique for these low energy introverts. Sometimes when you want to start a conversation with someone, it starts, but after a couple of sentences, your mind goes blank. Like you have no idea what to say.
Yeah.
The author suggests the parroting skill, which is my favorite skill in this book. It talks about you don't need to initiate or create a new idea. You just need to repeat their last few words in a questioning tone. That's it. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so exhausted today. I went to this photography session.
How was the photography session?
It was okay.
Right. And you were exhausted. Is there any particular reason why? Was it a different day to other days?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Too tired.
I can totally understand that.
Okay.
And I guess
Let's
I let the
let's
other
switch.
person go.
Let's
Yeah.
switch. Let's switch.
Yeah.
Now you say the same sentence.
I say that, well, I had a singing rehearsal with my bandmates, and I am really exhausted today.
You're really exhausted today.
Yeah, I am really exhausted today.
Was it the song that makes you what that made you exhausted?
Not really. It's not the song. I just hadn't slept well last night because I had a work shift and the work shift went on till 12 and I had to wake up early in the morning at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m.
Oh man, it must be very hard for anyone in the world to wake up that early, isn't it?
Yeah, getting less sleep. I don't think I cope well with lack of sleep.
Awesome. Thanks. So
Yeah.
so what we did here is just we tried to use the other person's sentence in order to create a conversation without us trying to introduce something. So I used
Yes.
your own words, I asked a question, I basically repeated what you said, but with a
Yeah.
question tone, and it made you to talk about it. And then I used another technique, which was the sympathetic technique, which shows that I care about your fatigue or your exhaustion. And I would love
Yeah.
to talk about it. And I appreciate it. And then I said, yeah, it
Yes.
is very hard. It is very difficult. So I think I used 3 or 4 techniques. I put a
Yes.
spotlight on you. I sympathized with you, and I did the parroting skill. So that just
Yes.
shows that these little tricks can really help someone, an introvert like you, to initiate this conversation without trying so hard to, oh, what should I say? It makes us anxious to think about what should I say, how should I say, how should I say something that might be, I don't know, might not be like offensive, especially in English. English is not my first language, and you just want to dive in.
Yeah. Can I also make one point that, for instance, the bit you mentioned about sympathy
Mm.
or empathy? Now, for instance, I, from my experience, if I speak about it, and I'm saying this because possibly other people might feel the same as well, but I realized that because I had to work very hard, and a lot of people actually have to work very hard to get to their stage. So sometimes sympathy or empathy does not come as naturally, to
Mhm.
people. So that is one thing that is can be worked on quite a lot as well to develop that another person has their own experiences. And I think the reason why I keep shifting back to understanding different things is that the mindset around things has to be always very clear. I think having a conversation with other people is important, but in your own spare time, having a conversation with yourself and understanding who you are, understanding what your values are, which then would trigger your own behaviors and attitudes, is the most important conversation one person can have, which, of course, you are doing, which I am doing via reading this book and trying to improve ourselves.
I can't agree more on what you just said. And I believe sometimes we are, so soaked in to life that we forget that honestly, talking conversations to other people, starting a conversation with other people, and trying to connect with other people is a skill set. So we can't just be ourselves and we expect others to pay attention to us. It's not just that easy. And it's not like a magic wand that someone just, does and makes things easy for us. Uh, it is hard. It is hard to learn all these skills, but it's like the driving, huh? I mean, to begin with, it
Yeah,
was very hard. We had to place 100% of our attention. I couldn't even listen to music when I was learning how to drive a car.
yeah,
And you are constantly thinking about, the seconds, how close you are to the front vehicle, your rear, the window, the shoulder check, everything. But after a while, it becomes a muscle memory, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So to begin with, it is hard. It might sound very mechanical to some people,
Yes,
but like any other skill to begin with, it might be mechanical, but after it turns into a muscle memory, then you enjoy using it without even knowing that you're using it.
exactly. And do you think that some people possibly give up too soon? For instance, they're like, oh, I'm not improving. For instance, someone trying to learn the guitar and is
Mm,
like, well, I've been playing for 2 months. I can't even change chords right now.
yeah.
So, your suggestion is that people keep going and keep exposing themselves to these different situations and have faith in the process.
Absolutely true, because there's no other way around it. I mean, if someone really wants to enjoy playing a guitar, they have to start from the scratch, from that wavy um, and lengthy ocean to begin with, to make other people's ears bleed to begin
Yes.
with, unless they reach to a point that they enjoy actually what they are
Yes.
making. You're a musician, you sing, you play
Yeah.
music, you play guitar. And I'm pretty sure that you passed all these days, but without passing all these days, you wouldn't have reached to this stage.
Absolutely. So, I also wanted to ask you about you have these really interesting hobbies which really fascinated me. For instance, you like to be on apps like Clubhouse.
Mm.
Is it Clubhouse?
Yes, yeah, yeah, true.
Where you have these different conversations with different people trying to learn about their perspectives. I've noticed that that has been a huge part of who you are since the time I have known you. So, what is the trigger for that? Is that something that you learned, or you're a very curious person? What is it about, Amir, and how did you
I
go
would
about it?
say that I really learn from people. People are open books. You just need to find a time, a suitable time to turn their pages, um, and a safe environment, of course. I read books and I enjoy them. That's fantastic. But all of those are theory. I mean, we did our PhD, but when we entered the working environment, it I wouldn't say that it was 100% different, the industry, but I would say there are some, theories that can't be applied in industry,
Yeah.
because we are talking about multiple aspects, and one of them is just, the money, the budgets.
Yeah.
So we are taking into consideration multiple factors that maybe a writer did not. So when I talk to different people with different mindset, with different ideology, even those
Yeah.
with different ideologies than me, I try to be a word detective.
Yes.
So I look for the words that are new to me, concepts that are new to me, and I try to learn that
Okay.
regardless of if it aligns with my ideology or not. That's a different story. And learning people and hearing people's experience is like you live their experience, so you don't need to relive their experience.
Yes.
If someone finds a safe spot and find you safe enough to talk about their mistakes in life, that's a free consultation session.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a very beautiful word for this that I learned. Living through others' experiences. It's called living vicariously. It's a beautiful word. I
Lovely.
learned when I was prepping for the graduate examinations.
I loved it. Thanks for sharing. See, here we I'm talking about. So I learned another new thing from you throughout this conversation. So that's why I really love it. I use all the platforms that really provides this potential to utilize it in a way that I enjoy. That's why before the talk I talked about, you know, others that I appreciate the criticism, I appreciate the admiration, but what I do is something that I should enjoy. And I don't want to do this just for the sake of other satisfaction. Um, yeah, that defines my activities around it. And what I said about the detective word is actually one of the techniques that Leil Lowndes is talking about in this book. She says if you try to find little highlights, little words that are very important for that person, for example, the name of their dog
Yes.
or the name of their children, and you note it down later on somewhere for yourself, in your next conversation, if you use them, the other person will appreciate that because you showed that you were deeply invested in their stories and you were listening to them. That feels great if someone
Yeah.
remembers your name after the first
Yeah.
talk. Won't you
Yes.
appreciate that?
I would really appreciate that. I told someone a few years back that I loved Kit Kat. And then when they mentioned to me when I was going to go play tennis with them
Yeah.
that, okay, we are going to play tennis, they were next to the vending machine. They're like, didn't you like Kit Kat? Shall I get you some? And I was like, thanks for
Uh,
remembering that.
that's fantastic. That just shows how important you were for them. And it just, again, creates a safe space for
Exactly.
more conversations.
Absolutely. I just also wanted to ask you, you mentioned about ideologies and
Mm.
how you would still try to have a conversation with people who don't have the same ideology as you. Isn't it, first of all, hurtful for a person to have a different ideology? Sometimes when there is so much backstory to it. And how do you dissociate from that particular feeling to be able to understand the other person's point of view?
Funny you asked it because I just had it a few days ago, especially with the current situation that Iran is facing. Some people are in favor of war, some people are against it. And interestingly, those who are against the war, they know less about Iran history and government than those are supporting this military support. I would say this wasn't a war against the nation. Um, so I didn't initiate a conversation, but I was in Clubhouse, interestingly,
Wow.
and a person just came to the stage and they talk about how they appreciate Islamic Republic, how they think that, you know, this government can do everything for people. They can reclaim people's honor and all those BS. Um, so I, I switched off the part of my brain that cares about the words that she was saying and stopped my emotions. Okay?
Okay.
Because if I was caring about the words that she was saying, I would have turned into a man on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
I switched it off and I tried to listen to her reasoning. So I started asking a question. Why do you think um, stopping a war would benefit people? Um, how about the previous, history that we had? What was the latest update of this government that they truly care about their own people? I started asking the question, and interestingly, we continued the conversation for around 40 minutes. And interestingly, again, she was mentioning all the sentences that she was saying from Instagram. Like she was quoting the Instagram
Oh, yeah.
posts, captions, or videos that the regime propaganda was producing. And when you reach to that stage that you understand that, okay, so these are the sources that she's using, you just stop caring too much. You're like, yeah, you know what? That's all good. You can win.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even try to convince the person. You just face them to their own words. And maybe deep down, she was double thinking. She was
Yes.
being a little bit skeptical about the things that she was saying, because she was like, yeah, I saw it in the video. And I said, well, it turned out that video was an AI made video. Have
Yeah.
you ever thought about it? And she was like, no,
Yeah.
it's not. But I said, this is the post. You can go and check it out later on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think switching off the emotions and stop caring about how you react about the words that the person's saying is a key. Otherwise, it's really easy to get that into a debate and an emotional fight.
Has it taken you a long time to develop that kind of skill?
I think so, especially after I started to read more. The book about the ideologic brain helped me a lot, written by Leos Migrot. That really helped me to understand how an ideologic mind works. And sometimes you just have to let them win.
Yes. I also just wanted to touch upon something really interesting that you said just now. It was about us pursuing our PhDs and us being, in some ways, kind of tunnel visioned about our PhDs, completing our project on time. There was this pressure with our scholarships running out. So then, after that, we moved into the real world where then we had to interact with people. My own observation has been that when you're in the outside world, it's not so much about sometimes the level of skill you have, because skill is something that you can acquire, but it's about the EQ, about how you interact with people. And now, after having gained quite a lot of experience in my own field, I realize that it is so much more about following like processes and how you work with people in teams, how you keep your communication with people. For instance, currently I'm working in the pharmacy department and we produce these lipid nanoparticles and put drugs inside them to basically inject into, for our other studies that we do with animal models. Few people are using that equipment. So I have to be really on top of letting people know, okay, well, I am going to use this equipment on Monday from this time to this time. I'm going to use this equipment on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever. Now that starts a conversation. Some people possibly don't do that, which can be really annoying and can actually prevent harmony in the lab. because the resources are already constrained. So communication skills are such an important part. And if you're going to shy away from it, if you're going to put that aside for some reason, for any reason it can be. So that's one thing I learned was talking to other people, communicating is possibly the most important skill that you can have. And unfortunately, us PhDs or people with lack of real life experience don't realize that as much. I realized another thing that's different in Western countries is that when kids turn 16, I think they go out and work. Now they're interacting with other people. Back in Pakistan, if I said to my parents, I want to go and work in McDonald's, they would be like, what's wrong with you? Why do you want to do that? You have all the luxury, you have all the money, you have all the food, you have a shelter. Why do you have to worry about money? And then once a lot of people come out of their education, that's the aspect that they struggle with the most. So, what are your thoughts and how do you resonate with this?
I double second that. Because for me it was the same. I remember the day that we went to the Forsyth Bar Stadium to work in
Yes.
in the food preparation sector. I didn't tell my parents because obviously they were against it. Like, how dare you? You're a PhD student. That's very beneath
Absolutely.
you to go there and wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Guess what? I did it after I submitted my PhD as well.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, I it's very important, especially for migrants, to learn the communicational skills and working as a team. You know, one part of the CV is like, I have great skills in teamwork. But what does it
Yes.
mean? Does it mean that if someone starts to disagree with you, will you be agitated? Can you take criticism? Um, or are you the one who is always criticizing others?
Yeah.
How do you cope with disagreement? Or what if people starts admiring you? Will it produce more ego for you? Like, these are the things that people really don't think about it in advance, and once they get into trouble, they're like, holy shit, what should we do, you know?
Yeah.
The anger management is another thing that I think is very important when you're working as a team member. Sometimes, you know, shit hits the fan and you get agitated over something that is not really personal, but you take it personally. You're like, no, because I have this nationality, the other person really disagreed with me. That's the reason. Or maybe they don't want to see me grow. Okay. They're against my growth. Or any other reasons. But deep down inside, we know that that's not true. We know that we can't take criticism. We don't know how to cope with disagreement. We take the disagreements very personally, and we never read the book for agreements and never take anything personally. So it really, it will have a negative impact on us when we are working as a team. And some people are just always, yes, sir. Yes, you're right. Or, yeah, whatever you say. I don't see that as someone who can be always productive in a team member. Do you?
No, I don't think so.
Mm.
Because then they're not letting other people's growth happen. I
Yeah.
think there's a way in which criticism needs to be given. It has to be respectful,
Mm.
but it cannot be an attack because some people possibly have this tendency to attack other people, which I don't think is the right way. So it can be a sandwich technique where you just say one good thing about their work, then a little bit of criticism there, how they can improve it. Not really criticism, but how they can improve it, and then still acknowledge their efforts, the sandwich technique. So that's really helpful. I think there are so many other aspects of the book that need to be discussed as well. But I was just going to touch up on how people associate these labels with themselves. For instance, if a PhD student says, I'm a PhD student, I am going to do a PhD, and so I'm not going to prepare fries for someone. Now they have attached that identity. At the end of the day, they were born naked as well, like any other person. But they have this huge sense of whoever they are, that they cannot do this. So I think it's a lot to do with attaching labels to yourself. Like, I am doctor, I'm a doctor, I am this, I own a big house, I am a Kiwi or whatever.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. This was Saffron Station. In Saffron Station, I try to talk about the things that matters to me, and hopefully you will find it interesting enough. If not, there are hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels out there, and you can go and check them out. I don't give a shit.
But this is the best. This is the best. This is the best podcast.
I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. Until the next episode, take care of yourself, your parents, send them love, and appreciate them while you still have them.